we're gonna go ahead and get this fixed and get back at a later date. Guys, welcome back to the channel. We finally got the stage 1 parts in for our 2021 RXPX 300, and we're about to go ahead and install that. Now, we've been waiting for literal months for these parts to come in. Unfortunately, in today's times, a lot of things just are on back order with anything that you're doing. So we've been waiting on that. We've got to wait in line just like anyone else. Now that we got this in, hopefully we can get rolling with stage 2 and stage 3, and we'll be doing shootout videos between the RXPX and the 2021 Yamaha GP1800R. Now, before I show you what comes in this kit, I just want to let you guys know that these are Riva Racing products that we will be putting on, but we will be selling this as the Green Hulk Stage 1 kit. The reason for that, we want to do these shootout videos between the SeaDoo and the Yamaha mod for mod. We want them to be identically modded, and Riva Stage 1 kit for the SeaDoo and their Stage 1 kit for the Yamaha really just don't do that. So we put a couple things together for the SeaDoo where we feel is the best starting point for one, and it's going to go directly in line with what we have done to the Yamaha. So the main thing for this kit is going to be the new intake that we're installing. This is a super clean install, the nicest intake that you can get for a SeaDoo by far. It is a little tedious, but you're going to see when it's all said and done, you just cannot beat the fit and finish. Another thing that we're going to add to the Stage 1 kit is the Riva Racing catch can. You need a catch can on all supercharged SeaDoo models. The 300 engine does have a lot of blow by, and if not, you do risk the chance of getting oil in your intake, your intercooler, the intake manifold, and really hurting your performance. We're also going to be adding a stainless wear ring, again just for that reliability factor. SeaDoos come with a plastic wear ring, and you do have to change them frequently because they just don't last. And also, not on this table, we do have a Solus 1318 impeller. We will be trying that out against the stock impeller to see which one's fastest. A lot of people claim that the stock impeller is faster. We're going to put that to the test and really figure it out. And the Solus happens to be faster, we're going to include that in the kit as well. So I'm going to get rolling with this install, and we're going to take this to the water and see what kind of numbers we can get. So I'm going to start by getting the pump out of this ski and sticking it in the freezer so we can get that wear ring changed out. To do that, we're going to want to put this in IBR override because we got to drop that reverse bucket. Get everything powered up. You want to hold the reverse lever, tap the mode button once you see IBR override, and then we can drop it down all the way. Then you want to make sure the power's off to the ski, and we can go ahead and start getting this pump out. We've got a 13mm bolt right here where the reverse bucket attaches to. That's the first bolt you want to get out. And then from there, we can take the reverse bucket off. They're all 13mm bolts. You'll want a short socket for all of those. And then holding the pump on is also 13mm bolts. And you want an extension to get those out, and then a 10mm for the steering cable. That's all that's necessary to pull the pump out on this. It is a little tedious with the IBR system, but it's easy enough to do and anyone can do it. So I went ahead, I removed the impeller, I removed the pump seal, and you also have these 2 set screws, one on each side. You want to take that out, that helps hold the wear ring in place. Now you're going to want to head and stick this in the freezer, and what that's going to do, the plastic wear ring is going to shrink faster than the metal housing and allow this to slide out. While you stick this in the freezer, you can go ahead and begin with the rest of the install. It ends up working out really well because you can get the engine work done while this sits in there. Once that's done, you can move on to the pump. And since this is out, you can see there's some damage to the wear ring right here. So this ski has probably a little over 30 hours on it. And you can see we do have some damage to the plastic wear ring. We don't ride in sandy water and shallow water or do anything that would really damage this wear ring. It's just what happens when you have plastic wear rings. And once you have damage to your wear ring, you're going to start losing performance. A stainless wear ring is going to keep performance much longer, and it should never really have to be replaced. So now I can just stick that in the freezer and proceed with the rest of this install. The first thing you'll have to do is disconnect the battery. You want to disconnect the negative terminal first. And the reason you want to disconnect it is because we're going to be dealing with electronics, and we will be taking stuff off the engine, and you don't want any risk of it starting or whatever the case may be. From there, we're going to want to take off all the electronics from the stock airbox. It looks a little complicated, but it's really not. And we're going to have to get that stock airbox out, and when it's all said and done, it's going to be a super clean install and look awesome. Alright, we're going to want to take all of this stuff off the front of this top airbox. Most of this stuff should just clip in. Alright, so once we get this ECU unbolted, we can go ahead and take these clips off. Press down there, that rotates. That'll plug will come out. It should be the same for this side. So we got the ECU out. Now we can go ahead and take the front air box out. We got everything disconnected. We do need to take off 2 straps in the front and then unbolt it and separate it. We do have 5 T15 screws that we'll have to take out before we separate this. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and another 2 in the front. And taking off that front panel is really going to help with access to those 2 in the front. Otherwise, you'd have to reach around the air box and find them and take them out that way. All right, guys, so I got the factory air box out. Really freed up a lot of room in the front of the ski. Of course, the wiring looks like a mess right now. We do have a mounting plate for all of that. Gonna clean all that up. And the best way I found to get the stock air box out was to go to the front hatch. I pulled that access panel off, and then I ended up disconnecting the fuel filler neck, pulled that out of the way, and slid the 2 pieces out through the front. So here's a factory air box. This is the top half of it that you do have to take off. With all these little clips, you just pry them off and it'll pop up. And this is the internals of what's going on. Here's the 2 inlet tubes, and this goes directly to the supercharger. It's very restrictive. There's no direct way to outside cold air. You've got to circulate air through this box. Not the best setup for performance. That's why we're going with this filter kit. We're going ahead and get started on that now. All right, so now that the factory air box is off, we do have to get the stock intake tube out. We're going to start by disconnecting it from this valve here and then off the supercharger. This hose here will be replaced with a catch can install, so there's no reason to keep that. And when you take this off, as you can see, this is why you need a catch can. There's oil on the inside of here. The oil is not overfilled whatsoever. If the oil was overfilled, this problem could be much, much worse. Still some oily residue in the intake pipe. This is not good, and why you need a catch can. I wish I would have had one on here sooner, but we've just been waiting on it because it's been back ordered. Finally got that in. I'm gonna go ahead and take the intercooler piping off so I can get the factory inlet tube out, make that a little easier, and also check for oil on this side. And this tube's completely clean, no oil going in there. Again, this was very minor as to what I've seen. There's some cases where oil has completely coated everything, which is why the importance of a catch can, and everyone needs one as soon as they get their ski. All right, so this is the hardware that comes in the box. I've separated each piece to where matching pieces. It makes it a lot easier when you go and find it. This is the mounting bracket where all the electronics are going to go. It's going to sit on top of the fuel tank and be secured with these 2 straps. Riva says to put the ECU on after this is already in the ski, but I'm going to have to do this now while it's out of the ski. I think it might be a little easier. These spacers go between the ECU and the mounting plate, like so. And these 3 bolts right here with the wave washers on them will screw into it. Now you can go ahead and fit the mounting plate in here and start mounting some electronics to it. We're going to start with the fuse box. You want the fuse box to go through this slot. You don't want to twist the wires up. Instead, to neatly and carefully slip through there, just like that, and then we could turn it on its side to screw this down with 4 of the supplied screws. Since that mounting plate and everything's installed, this does have a separate plate that will go up here and hard mount this. We'll get to that later. So with all that out the way, I'm going to go ahead and start on the catch can install, and it's as simple as pulling the front 2 bolts out of the exhaust manifold to utilize for the mounting bracket included with the catch can. So I've got the 2 bolts out of the front of the exhaust manifold, and this is the bracket that comes with it. This will go on the front side of the exhaust manifold like that. You just reuse the 2 factory bolts, and then the catch can will mount to the opposite side. Once we have this bracket secured in place, we can go ahead and install the catch can. It'll just slip in the front of there and use these 2 supplied 11mm bolts. And then all we have to do is connect the hose back to the valve. The included hose is a little long, so we will have to cut that, which really is not that big of a deal. So I'll get that cut and we could get this secured in place. So the first part of installing this intake tube is going to be putting on this threaded ring onto the end of the supercharger so we can put the velocity stack on there. Very carefully put the bottom half on and then the top half. And before you tighten it all the way down, you're going to want to suck it up against this ring around the supercharger inlet, and that is where this needs to go. All right, once that's on there, this velocity stack will thread this on And that's another reason why this intake really sets itself apart from others, because it has a velocity stack on here, which I don't know if you can see or not, but it has a smooth transition all the way going into the supercharger and really flows that air a lot better. Once this velocity stack's on here, you'll want to slide over the silicone coupler and tighten down one end of it. Leave this end loose so we can put the intake tube on, but we want to tighten down this end onto the velocity stack first. So outside of the ski, I put on this bracket and tightened all this down, and we're ready to go ahead and slide this onto the supercharger inlet. After that, we'll get this end to go into there, and that'll tighten down with a washer and a nylon lock nut. So to finish the install on the intake tube, we do have to remove this bracket here. We're going to take out these 2 factory bolts and reuse those, and we're going to replace it with this. This will go in there like that. You still have the eye in it, and then this acts as a mounting point for the front part of the intake tube. So outside the ski, I put the air filter on. I put this silicone coupler on with the 2 hose clamps. That'll make it a lot easier than doing it inside the ski. The kit does include a pre-filter that does keep water out. I chose to leave it off, but it does come with it, so if you want it, it's there. To complete the intake tube, the last thing we're going to have to do is put this bolt in on the bottom of the bracket that we just installed, and this will secure this thing in place and keep it from vibrating around inside the hull. Alright, so the intake tube's all securely in place. Everything looks super nice. The last thing we got to do is mount up this reservoir, and that'll be it for the engine part of this install. So for the reservoir, it does include this template. I've got it taped up here. I had to cut it out, and I've already drilled these 2 holes. You want to use a 17/64 drill bit. While I was drilling them, I used a vacuum to suck all the shavings up so there's no cleanup afterward. Alright guys, so I got the engine work completely done. Wasn't too complicated. Yes, it is a little tedious, but as you can see, the end result, you just cannot beat it. It really cleans up everything, free up a lot of room in the back here. Also got rid of the big ugly air box in the front. Now we just got the single filter, and I've hard mounted the coolant reservoir. Really cleans up the look, and it's of course going to increase performance. I'm gonna get the stainless wearing in, test the stock impeller, and then swap out to the Solus 1318, and we're gonna see what the results are. So as you can see, I've got the stainless wearing in the pump with the stock impeller installed. This all looks so much better. It's going to perform better, and it's going to last forever. That's the most important part. So now I'm just going to install that back into the ski, upload the Stage 2 8500 tune using the Map Tuner X. That's all coming with this, and then we'll head to the water and get top speed, come back, swap the impellers, and get top speed for the Solus to decide which impeller is going to come with this kit and see which one's the fastest. So I'm at the water now. I'm going to get the ski warmed up. You always want to run these things on a hot engine. If you're running top speed and hard accelerations on cold engines, you will do some damage to them. As you can see, we've got over a half a tank of gas. I'm going to see where the RPMs are at with the stock impeller and see where the top speed numbers are. I'm going to be using a GPS and the dash stat, and then we'll go swap it out for the Solus impeller. For all we know, that could be even faster than this, but I want to test it because I don't want to sell you guys something and it just be wasted money. Guys, I did not get very far. It blew an OEM cooling line. As you can see, the reservoir is empty. That's absolutely nothing to do with what we installed on here. This is a common problem. As soon as I saw the alarm go off, I killed the engine. You do not want to try running it with this to avoid further damage. We're going to go ahead and get this fixed and get back at a later date. This is the main reason why you do not go to the water alone, especially when testing out new stuff. I had my girlfriend there waiting in the truck. I sent her a text and she was able to come rescue me. If not, who knows how long I would have been sitting out here. There's no boat traffic on the water today. And you're also going to want to check all of your OEM cooling lines on a SeaDoo. This is the second SeaDoo that we've had in a row that has blown an OEM cooling line. It really sucks. The engine was definitely hurt in the last one. Hopefully this one's okay. I killed it as soon as the alarm went off. So we're gonna go back to the house, see what coolant line blew, fix that, and if the engine's okay, we're gonna come out at a later date because we're just out of time for today to get speed runs. So this is going to be a two-part video. Be on the lookout for the next one where we will have the top speed and acceleration for the Solus impeller and the stock impeller. That definitely did not go as planned. I checked the coolant line. It is in fact the one going to the oil cooler underneath the intake manifold. The intake manifold is going to have to come off to really tighten those up. You really should check your oil coolant lines on all of your SeaDoo watercraft. It's a very common issue, and I will be doing a separate video on how to check them and why you should check them and what the outcome would be if it blows off and you leave it running and don't kill it as soon as the alarm would go off. So the next step would be to get this fixed and get it back out on the water so we can do some top speed testing. I've checked the compression of the engine and it is fine, so there's no worries there. That's going to conclude part one. Be on the lookout for part two. It should be coming almost immediately after this so we can get some speed numbers for all of you guys that watched the install. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.